Hello everyone, hope you have an amazing day and welcome back to my channel. Today we discuss about the economic environment in international marketing. The economic environment is important because of the rapid integration of international economic markets. Increasingly, business, consumers, and governments realize that their lives are affected not only by what goes on in their own town, state, or country, but also by what is happening around the world. Consumer can walk into their local shops today and buy goods and services from all over the world. Local business must compete with these foreign products. And however, many of these same businesses also have new opportunities to expand their markets by selling to a multitude of consumers in other countries. The advance of telecommunication is also rapidly reducing the cost of providing services internationally. While the market or internet has changed the nature of how many products and services are sold and marketed. A nation's economy's situation represents its current and potential capacity to produce goods and services. The key to understanding market opportunities lies in the evaluation of the stage of a nation's economic growth. Economic growth is the increase in the amount of goods and services produced by an economy over time. It is conventionally measured as a percentage change in the gross domestic products, that is GDP, or gross national products, that is GNP. These two measures, which are calculated slightly differently to total the amounts paid for the goods and services that a country produced. As an example of measuring economic growth, a country that creates uh, in goods and services then creates a nominal economic growth. So, in order to compare per capita economic growth among countries, the total sales of the contributes or countries to be compared may be quoted in a single currency. This requires converting the value of currencies of various countries into a selected currency, for example, US dollar. One way to do this conversion is to rely on exchange rates among the currencies. For example, how many Mexican pesos buy a single US dollars. Another approach is to use the purchasing power partially method. So this method is based on how much consumers must pay for the same basket of goods in each country. So inflammation or deflations can make it difficult to measure economic growth. If GDP, for example, goes up in a country by 1% in a year, was this due solely to rising prices, that is inflations, or because more goods and services were produced and saved? To express real growth rather than changes in price for the same goods, statistics on economic growth are often adjusted for inflation and deflation. For example, a table may show changes in GDP in the period 2010 to 2020 as expressed in 2010 US dollars. This means that the single currency being used in the US dollar with the purchasing power it had in the US in 2010. The table might mention whether the figure are inflated, adjusted, or real. If no adjustments were made for inflammations, the table might make no mentions of inflammations, adjustments, or might mention that the price are nominal. A country's balance of payments is a record of its economic transactions with the rest of the world. This record shows whether a country has a trade surplus, that is value of export exceeds the value of imports, or a trade deficit, that is, value of imports exceeds the value of exports. Trade figures can be further future divided into merchandise trade and services trade accounts also. A country can run a surplus in both accounts, a deficit in both accounts, or a combination of two. In 2021, the US imported $3.4 trillion in goods and services and exported $2.5 trillion, totally a trade deficit of $859 billion in 2020. So the trade is very important in international business or marketing. The growth of international trade and investment has been stimulated partly by the steady decline of trade barriers since the Great Depression of 1930s. In the post-World War era, the General Agreement on Tariff and Trade, or GATT, uh, prompted regular negotiation among a growing body of members to reciprocally reduce tariff, that is import taxes or import goods. During each of these regular negotiations, eight of these rounds was completed between 1948 to 1994. Countries promised to reduce their tariff on imports or exchange for concessions. That means tariffs reductions by other GATT members also. When the Uruguay round, the most recently completed round, was finalized in 1994, the member countries succeeded in extending the agreement to include liberalizations promises in a such larger sphere of influence. Now, countries not only would lower tariffs on goods trade but also would begin to liberalize the agriculture and services market. They would eliminate the many quota system like the multi-fiber agreement in clothing that had sprout up in previous decades, and they would agree to adhere to certain minimum standards to protect intellectual property rights such as patents, trademarks, and copyrights. The World Trade Organization, that is WTO, was created to manage this system of new agreements to provide a forum for regular discussion of trade matters and to implement a well defined process for settling trade disputes that might arise among countries. Foreign exchange provides a means for setting accounts across borders. The dynamics of international finance can have a significant impact on a nation's economy as well as the fortunes of individual companies. Currencies can be subject to devaluations or revaluations as a result of actions taken by a country's central banker. Currency trading by international speculators can also lead to devaluation when a country's economy is strong or when demand for its goods is high. Its currency tends to appreciate in value. When currency values inflate or global firms face various types of economic exposures, firms can manage exchange rate exposures by hedging. So, entrepreneurs and business leaders recognize that finding new opportunities for growth and enhancing revenue is a natural progression for a successful business. Having worked in the Arabian Gulf countries for 18 years before moving to Canada, so learn about the great opportunities that markets in that region offer that are often overlooked or underestimated. Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, both of which have relatively developing markets, have large young populations with strong purchasing power. So they enjoy high political stability and offers ample business opportunities as it's been traditionally known as a major oil exporter. So these now still makes up to 90% of KSA income. However, under Vision 2030, Saudi is moving towards diversifications and investing in a new sector like petrochemical, power, telecoms, healthcare, and even tourism also. So, these sectors are emerging sectors, which are new businesses that bring in foreign investments, create new opportunities, attract talent, and push economic and culture diversifications and growth. Saudi has a GDP of 754 billion in 2014 World Bank current estimated prices, and is considered the largest economic in the Middle East. However, working in Saudi Arabia doesn't come without challenges, and businesses needs to understand these implications first. It is impossible for new businesses operating and abide by Islamic law and be aware of different business etiquette. For example, having a different work week has implications for dealing with banks internationally. It is also extremely important to re-evaluate to branding to make sure that it can work in Saudi Arabia and resonate with Saudi audience also. Although it was difficult in the past to obtain visa or visas, but Saudi is now open to expats can obtain visas easily through an online system. It is therefore important to highlight this missed opportunity and great transformations and development achieved after the launch of its Vision 2013. So that's the end of the video, my friends. If you like my video, please subscribe my channel. Thanks a lot for watching.